Thank you for coming. So we'll speak a little shortly from third chapter. Anyone knows what the third chapter is called? What is the third chapter?
Karma Yoga.
Wow, good. Karma Yoga. Nice. Very good. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om 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 Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Today's text is 35. Shreyan Swadharma Viguna Paradharmat Swanustitat Swadharma Nidanang Shreya Paradharmo Bhayavaha. Translation. It is far better to discharge one's prescribed duties, even though they may be faulty, than in other duties. Destruction in the course of performing one's own duty is better than engaging in an other's duties. For to follow another's path is dangerous. Purport. One should therefore discharge his prescribed duties in full Krishna consciousness rather than those prescribed for others. Prescribed duties complement one's psychophysical condition under the spell of the modes of material nature. Spiritual duties are as ordered by the spiritual master for the transcendental service of Krishna. But both materially and spiritually, one should stick to his prescribed duties even up to death, rather than imitate others' prescribed duties. Duties on the spiritual platforms and duties on the material platform may be different, but the principles of following the authorized directions is always good for the performer. When one is under the spell of the modes of material nature, one should follow the prescribed rules for particular situations and should not imitate others. For example, a Brahmana who is in the mode of goodness is non-violent, whereas a Kshatriya who is in the mode of passion is allowed to be violent. As such, for a Kshatriya, it is better to be vanquished, following the rules of violence, than to imitate a Brahmana who follows the principles of non-violence. Everyone has to cleanse his heart by a gradual process, not abruptly. However, when one transcends the modes of material nature and is fully situated in Krishna consciousness, he can perform anything and everything under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master. In that complete stage of Krishna consciousness, the Kshatriya may act as a Brahmana, or a Brahmana may act as a Kshatriya. In the transcendental stage, this distinction of the material world do not apply. For example, Vishwamitra was originally a Kshatriya, but later on he acted as a Brahmana, whereas Parashuram was a Brahmana, but later on he acted as a Kshatriya. Being transcendentally situated, they could do so. But as long as one is on the material platform, he must perform his duties according to the modes of material nature. At the same time, he must have full sense of Krishna consciousness. Gam karoti vatalam bhangam langate grimyat kribatamam mande Shri Gurum Dina Taranam Shriyal Swadharma Viguna Paradharmat Swanustitat Swadharma Nidanang Shreya Paradharma Bhayavaha. It is far better to discharge one's prescribed duties even though they may be faulty than in others' duties. Destruction in the course of performing one's own duties is better than engaging in others' duties, for to follow another's path is dangerous. So how do we know what is our duty? How do we know? How do we figure out what is really our duty? What is our main duty in Krishna consciousness? Bhakti, to be Krishna conscious. You can say that is our main duty. Savai pung sang paro dharmo yato bhakti adokshati ahaituki apatiyata yayatma suprasidati. That's pungsang means living entities. Savai pungsang paro dharma, the highest dharma for all living entities. Savai pungsang paro dharma yato bhakti adokshati. Adokshati means Krishna. So that is ahaituki bhakti unto Krishna. That is the dharma for all living entities. So we have the spiritual dharma. There's our swadharma or vastava vastu and avastava vastu. Vastu means existence, something existing. So that's practically everything. So everything has a dharma, everything in existence. And what was our dharma? What was our dharma? We just mentioned.
That's to serve the Lord.
Serve the Lord. Serve the Lord. Haituki bhakti. That's our dharma. That's the dharma of all living entities. Whether we speak of trees or animals or demigods or whatever, inhabitants of the spiritual world and also in the material world, that's our dharma. Can dharma change?
Not the spiritual dharma.
Not the spiritual dharma, right? But it can be covered or perverted. What is the dharma of water?
It's liquid in it.
It's liquid. It's liquid, right? And can that change?
Yes. I think so.
How? Temperature. If it gets very cold, what happens to the water? It freezes, it becomes ice. So that it changes. But immediately when it comes back to its natural condition, if you say like normal weather, like warm, its natural condition, what happens? The ice melt and we have water again. That can happen to us also, the living entity. We can become covered. And then this swadharma become nisarga. Means we believe that our dharma is what is not. We think it's ice, but it's water. So that's what happens when we become conditioned. We think we are matter. But the living entity, due to illusion, is bewildered. The living entities. Atmanam trigunatmakam, and he identified with matter. Trigunatma, trigunas. Atmanam trigunatma. Paropi. Even though he is para, he is transcendental. Paropi manote natam. Satkritam chabipachite, and therefore he undergoes suffering again and again and again. So everything in existence boils down to dharma. Meaning, if we perform our dharma, if we do our duty, then Krishna is pleased. If we are not, then Krishna is not so pleased. So back to the original question, how do we understand what is our material dharma? Who created this dharma and this vana and this ashram? Any guesses?
Lord Krishna.
Lord Krishna. He created it. Chatur, you know this verse? Chaturvanya?
I don't know.
Chaturvanya maya sristam guna karma vibhagasaha tasya katharam abhimam vidya kartaram abhimam. As Krishna says, Chaturvanyam, I created the Chaturvanyam, 4 Vanam. Chaturvanyam maya sristam, they're created by me. Chaturvanyam maya sristam guna karma. And what determines what vana and to some degree what ashram one is in? Guna and karma. The modes of material nature, our qualities, and our activities. So it's not that this is now in India that a caste is determined by birth. This is not how it works. You can be born in a Kshatriya family and be a Sudra. You can be born in a Sudra family and become a Brahmana. Because it's all guna and karma. Of course, it's easier if you're born in a, let's say, Brahmana family. It's easier to be a Brahmana because you are raised in that way. But if you do not develop those qualities, you're not a Brahmana. How can we find out what is a Brahmana? How do we know? See, all these things are so important. It's so important we know. We have so many questions. If you don't know the answers, how will we find out? How will we find out if we do things right or wrong? If you're not acting according to our Dharma, is it pleasing to Krishna, yes or no?
No.
No, right? If you are, it is. So how do we find out what is the Dharma of a Brahmana, for instance? Turn to Bhagavad Gita, right? Shastra, 1841, something. Someone dharmas, tapas aucham, sanchi, 42, sanchi arjavam evacha, jnanam vijnanam astigyam, brahma karma svabhavatyam. Let's take it. Samaha, what does that mean? Peacefulness. Dharma. Self-control, tapa, everyone knows what that means. Austerity. So what is a Brahmana? He's peaceful, meaning nothing can really shake him. He can sit on a highway and be completely peaceful in the middle of a highway. Because he's resting in himself and he believes in Brahman. So he's peaceful, so he's dhammas, he's self-controlled. He controls his senses, he controls his mind. Dhammas tapa, he performs austerities. Some more dhammas tapa, sautam, shantautam. He has purity. Jnanam, vijnanam, astigyam, he has knowledge and he has wisdom. And astigyam, he is religious. So this is how we can categorize a Brahmana. So if you think, am I a Brahmana? See if you really live by these qualities. Are we always peaceful? Are we self-controlled? Are we performing austerities to please Krishna? And what kind of austerities? Are we really, really religious? Are we self-controlled? Have we wisdom? Do we have knowledge of the scriptures? Do we know where to answer these questions? Do we know how to find it? How do we know if we are kshatriya? Heroism, power, determination. What else? Resourcefulness, leadership,
Courage in battle.
generosity, and courage in battle. These are the qualities of a kshatriya. So how do we find out what we are? We see by these qualities. What is the Vaishyas? They're merchant, they're cow protection, go raksha, and business. And the sutras, what are they doing?
Doing service to others.
Doing service to others. And what is their pay? Food and shelter. A sutra doesn't have money because he doesn't know how to use money. So if you give a sutra money, he becomes degraded. So that's why in the Vedic system created by Krishna, he will never get money because he's misusing them. He doesn't know what is dharma. He doesn't know what is religion. He doesn't know what to use his money for. So what does he use it for? Maybe go out drinking. And that's what we see in society today, because everyone has sutras or lower, mostly lower. Sutra is actually to some degree like Leonardo da Vinci. He was a sutra. He was an artist. Right? Musicians, sutras. Painters, sutras. So how can we see who's a sutra? He's getting a paycheck. Vaishyas, they will not. They will have their own. They will have their own farming, or they're doing business. Kshatriyas don't never take pay from anyone. You know the story of Bhima when he was in the mountains together with Draupadi and Arjuna, and Draupadi saw some beautiful lotus flowers, 1,000 petals lotus flowers coming down. He says, "Bhima, please go and get me some more of these flowers." And Bhima, he ran up, followed this stream upwards. And he came there, and there was all these soldiers of Kuvera. And they said, "You're not allowed to come to this lake." And Bhima said, "You try to stop me." And then they said, "If you ask Kuvera, maybe you'll get flowers." And Bhima said, "I'm a kshatriya. I'll never ask anyone for anything. I'll take whatever I want." So it's so important that we know our dharma. Shriyan Swadharma Viguna. It is better, Shriyan, it is better, Shriyan Swadharma, Swadharma, our own dharma, Shriyan Swadharma Viguna, even though they are faulty, even though we make mistakes, because we do. Who here can live up to They're highest every time. We make mistakes. But it is better, this verse says, Sriyam Swadharma Viguna Para Dharma Svanustita, than follow an other's dharma, even though we follow that perfectly. Let's go. Sriyam Swadharma Viguna Para Dharma Svanustita, Sriyam Swadharma Viguna Para Dharma Svanustita, Swadharma Nidanang Sriya. So it's better to meet destruction, Nidanang. In that. And the example is given is just like fire is covered by smoke. So we still use fire, but there might be smoke there. So there's some fault, but we use fire because of the purity of the fire. So if we are capable of finding out who we are, what is our dharma, then we can be Krishna conscious. Otherwise it's very, very difficult. Very difficult to find out what to do and what not to do. Sahajam karma konteya, sadosham abhinachayat, sarvadamba hidosina duminagni evavitaham. All endeavors are covered by some fault. All endeavors have some fault, like fire is covered by smoke. So how do we remove the smoke? How do we come to the purity? We live according to Dharma, always. Follow it, have it in our hearts always. So the Dharma of all living entities is to serve Krishna with all their hearts, all their souls. So if we are capable of going in that direction, then Krishna is automatically pleased. But if we cannot, if there's no real Dharma in our lives, then we are not. So anyone here knows what Varna and Ashram they belong to?
I think so.
Huh?
I think so.
Let's see.
Sutra.
Sutra?
Yes, Sutra.
And Ashram? You know.
Must be Vanaprastha.
Vanaprastha? Okay. Okay.
Born of Malaysia. I'm Malaysia.
Yeah.
And I'm Malaysia Sevaki. I serve Malaysians. I'm pleased to do so.
See, that's Vaishnavas. They see themselves Trinada Pisanachana, Tanori Vasa Hisnana, lower than a blade of grass. They will always see themselves lower than a blade of grass, always be very humble. But we do have a Dharma. Everyone is Kala Sutra, Sambhava. Everyone is born Sutra in Kali Yuga. And there's no shame in being, the Prabhupada says, better than a sweeper in the street than a charlatan meditator. So we can do all the right things, say all the right things, put the tilak right and have the kantimalas and have our japa beats and everything. But if we're not honest about it, if that's not really who we are, if it's just playing and making a show, then is that really Dharma? No. So then better be honest, I'm lower than a blade of grass and no qualifications. But still we have some, right? There's something there. We have some inclinations. Some have some Brahminical inclinations. Some have some Vaishya inclinations. Some are good at making money. But whatever we have, we need to use these facilities in Krishna's service. That's why it's so extremely important to give charity. To give charity, give something always. And that's especially meant for whom? There are 4 varnas and 4 ashrams. Who are giving charity? Grihastas, right? Brahmacharis, are they giving charity? No, because they have nothing to give. But who is a brahmachari? How can we categorize a brahmachari? Is a brahmachari just a person who is not married? No, right? It's more to it than that. A brahmachari, he's living, Bhagavatam says in the Gurukul, he's living directly under the spiritual master. He will never use any money for himself or his own maintenance, as mentioned in Java Dharma. one who is in the renounced order of life. There's really not so much difference between the brahmachari and the sannyasi. It's just that the sannyasi most likely been for some more years, have some more experience and have some more knowledge and vijnan. But otherwise the ashram is the self, is the renounced ashram. So that means he doesn't have anything. The real sannyasi doesn't have anything. He's living from day to day. That's actually how people are respected. The brahmanas, they respect each other due to how little they possess. So a brahmana who has cows, which exist, he will respect a brahman who has nothing, who's just living from day to day. So we are all grihastas. Nobody here is a brahmachari. I'm not. I'm not living under the spiritual master. It's not brahmachari. Grihasta, what would grihasta mean? That means you have a house. That's a grihasta. It's just an unmarried grihasta, which in one sense doesn't really exist, but in Kali Yuga everything is degraded. Right? So, and their duty, their dharma is to give charity. If you're not doing that, that's no dharma. You're not doing dharma. You're not living up to your responsibility. You're not being what you should be in the body of Krishna consciousness. What are the legs compared to? It's the sutras. And what is the belly? It's the vaishyas. What is the arms? Kshatriyas. What is the head? Brahmanas. So if the body is either losing legs or belly or arms or head, it's not so functional. So that's why in the society, society body you can say, we need the whole spectrum. If that is not there, it doesn't work. Then Krishna consciousness will not spread, then Krishna consciousness will not prosper. And that means we will not prosper in our Krishna consciousness. So important, right? So important. Because we have the tendency to just think just about me. I just need to take care of number one. But as long as we do that, is that a Krishna conscious mentality? Paradukkha dukhi. The devotee sees someone suffering, he's suffering. The devotee's nature is to help, to progress, to make society progress, to make Krishna consciousness progress. That's our duty. So that's when it starts. It starts with Dharma. So if we think we have problems chanting our rounds, or we think we have problems studying Bhagavatam, or we think we have problems associating with devotees, if we think we are not really happy in Krishna consciousness, maybe that's where we have to find out, where am I situated? Right? Am I doing my Dharma for my ashram and for my varna? Created by Krishna. Krishna created that system. Silence for Dharma Viguna. It's better to perform one's own duties than other duties. Very dangerous. So, any comments or questions?
I have one comment, just remember said this. Prabhupada asked Brahmachari, are married? Say, no, there's so much problems. Prabhupada didn't like that answer.
Mm-hmm.
It's better you get married and go through it.
Yeah.
Instead of just...
Prabhupada asked a brahmachari if he wanted to marry or he was married.
Why he didn't marry? No.
Why he wasn't married?
Why he didn't marry?
Okay.
So there's all these problems.
Yeah.
There's also obvious when you want a new one, it has to be. And not just jump, you know.
That's renunciation in the mode of passion.
Yeah, must be,
That's renunciation in the mode of passion, right? Yeah.
There's too much problems, so
Yeah.
forget it.
You renounce out of its troublesome, its pains. Yeah. Klesha so deep now. Is it klesha so deep heart for us to say something? Yeah. Yeah. There's always kleshas. Yeah. Prabhupada wanted us, he wanted devotees to be brahmacharis if they could.
Okay.
But again, better an honest sweep on the street than a charlatan brahmachari. But no matter what, that's really the point. It doesn't really matter, right? If you're brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, sannyasi, if they exist in this Kali Yuga. doesn't really matter if we are any varna and ashram, but what matters is we're doing our duty. We do what is the dharma of that ashram. So we need to fit in somewhere. We need to find out, this is where I'm situated, I'm in this ashram, I'm in this varna, and then follow that dharma. And then this ashram and this varna will manifest more and more. But if we're not, we're constantly bewildering ourselves, bewildering everyone else with our activities.
I can say one thing, if one's able to practice Krishna consciousness, then one's situated properly.
Yeah, that's Savaipuṅ, that's the highest dharma, right? But again, this material dharma is created by Krishna, as we
But I
mentioned.
think if materially speaking, if one is able to practice Krishna consciousness peacefully, then one is actually, in my understanding, situated properly.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes we deny our own nature, we just deny, we are unrealistic or afraid or whatever.
Yeah. Yes, if we are really living Krishna consciousness, because that implies we are following dharma.
Yeah.
Right? We can, if we go out and preach, but we are not really following our dharma, we might be not be very good preachers,
Yeah,
or we might even be successful preachers, but not make very much advancement. So everything is concluded, right, or included. That even like Krishna consciousness means dharma. That's the highest dharma, but also it means as long as we are conditioned, we will take that conditioning into consideration and act accordingly. Thank you.
Some devotees are very infatuated by astrology, and so they go to an astrologer, or they make up their own chart, and they find out that there is a note of a varna according to their astrology. So can you elaborate on this? If they're acting in one way and the chart says something else, and they're situated like sudras, but it says Brahmins, and they start calling themselves Brahmins. What kind of fall down are you heading into if you don't act as a Brahmana at all, but actually you're posing yourself that I'm Brahmana because of your chart? What is the...
One thing is, as we know, astrology or Jyotish is Vedic science, so for sure it works. But in Kali Yuga, I'm not sure there's many qualified astrologers who can really see without making any flaws in your chart at all. So we can use it, Prabhupada used it. So we can use it, but I think we should use it with caution. We should, if you say, okay, I wanna see what the stars says, what the demigods are saying about my future, which is in one sense the same. Then we should say, okay, this is what it says. This is what my astrologer told me. This is what the chart is saying. But maybe I should double check it.
Yeah.
Maybe I should see, especially if you're told your varna and ashram, maybe mostly varna.
Then if you're told your varna is, for example, Brahmana, then you should check out the list of Brahmana's duty, and then you should actively live according to those principles.
Well, no, not
You-
really.
you
That's
cannot
really
act
what
like
this
a
verse
Sudra
is
and-
saying. What this verse is saying is, no, you shouldn't. You should follow your own dharma.
But then is
So you
the
should not. You
dharma
should not change your dharma. You should just
astrology?
be honest about what your dharma is.
Yeah, but for example, as a woman, if you are married to a Sudra or a Vaishya, then you even though if your charts say that you are Brahmin, you are not Brahmin because your varna is according to your husband. So how to calculate? Is the astrology correct if you have never done anything but be a slave worker or like a paid servant in the system, for example, and then you are told that you are a Brahmin? How is that supposed to work out for you? Because then you cannot receive a dime from anyone. You need to be independent, but you've never been independent, but it still says Brahmana in your chart.
So again, maybe you're not a Brahmana, or maybe you are, but as Krishna says, Chaturvarnam yasistam guna karma. It's according to guna and karma.
Yeah.
So whatever it says in your chart, if you're not really living that, if you do not have these gunas and not doing that karma,
Yeah.
then the chart is wrong, or the one who's sold you that chart is cheating you. So it's actually easy. It's just to see again what is our qualities. Do you always clean up after yourself? Like if you think, oh, I'm a brahmana. Do you always clean up after yourself? Do you always keep it neat and clean? Do you always I always peaceful? I always tolerant, merciful to other living entities, etc. Do you have knowledge of the scriptures? Do you have realizations of the scriptures? All these, if they are there, self-control, then yeah, maybe you are a brahmana. But otherwise, why take on something you're not? I once heard an example. It's like, say you like apples, but mango is the king of fruits. So there's more prestige in eating a mango than there is in eating apples. So that means when you're out publicly, you will eat mangoes, right? Because it's, wow, I'm eating the king of all fruits. That means I'm wealthy and I'm wise. But when you're home alone, what will you eat? You'll eat apples. So that's what we are, right? So immediately it'll come out. It'll shine through who you really are. Prabhupada tells a story of this. What was it? Was it a fox or no?
Jackal.
Jackal. A jackal. Good. It was a jackal, of course. And this jackal fell down in a bucket of blue paint. So then thought, wow, this jackal, he must be God. So everyone started worshipping him, serving him, and doing all things for this jackal, all the other jackals. But immediately at night time when the moon was out there, he started, ooh, true nature came out. So our true nature will always shine through, no matter how good we try to hide it. And we will not be happy. We will not be happy in that situation. Again, we like our apples, why pretend to eat mangoes? If you like apples, eat apples.
I heard a funny example in this Hitopadesa. That's what like as one said, it was a Brahmin he's very renowned for his spirituality. He did everything for the Lord. And once he went to the market with his small daughter to buy popcorn. Somehow the popcorn's kind of and there was offering.
Yeah.
And they said, "But Daddy, you like him so much." And then he was exposed. That's the whole thing.
Or Prabhupada says, give a blind cow in charity. Saying right now, okay, but you can use this cow. Now I lost the popcorn, now I can manage to offer them. Okay, thank you all very much. Grandavad Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Prabhupada ki jai. That's